this is Bill Bruce Jr. from Take This Lollipop and a Million Horror Movies. Don't be scared. You're listening to Then Is Now podcast.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
What kind of a sick school is this?
Uh-oh, Dongo!
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
You got spunk. I hate spunk.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
Oh, righty then.
How you doing? Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Say hello to my little friend!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
What are you people? On dope?
Stop whining.
I got a crap on deck that can choke a donkey.
Who is your daddy?
I'm sorry, but all questions must be submitted in writing.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Can I do that?
I'll be back.
A dynamite! Show me the money!
Don't! Up your nose with your rubber hose.
A what?
I'm sailing! I'm sailing!
Groovy.
You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Here's looking at you, kid.
We got no food. We got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off.
Come to the coast and get together, have a few laughs.
Hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
I love it when a plan comes together.
What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
We're on a mission from God.
Hi, this is Rigor, and you're listening to Then Is Now podcast. While science fiction has never left our pop culture, there are many science fiction films, TV shows, and books from the past that have not been introduced to the younger generation. Our job here is to make sure that these things are not forgotten. One of these things that you should know about is a TV series from 1994 called Babylon 5, which ran for 5 seasons. The series follows the human military staff and alien diplomats stationed on a space station called Babylon 5, built in the aftermath of several major interspecies wars as a neutral ground for galactic diplomacy and trade. But what made it unique for its time was that it was a pre-planned 5-year story arc that featured storylines which spanned multiple episodes and even seasons, affecting permanent changes to the series' universe. One of the major stars of Babylon 5 is on the show today, and he's not just known for that. He's been an actor since the early 1970s and has been on several other notable shows and is still going strong with a TV presence today. So sit back and get ready to listen to a fantastic episode with a major TV star. Class is in session.
I have a bad feeling about this.
How could I possibly be expected to handle school on a day like this?
Hey, you in my class?
I am today.
I think you should consider transferring to shop class. Woo! Now, very few students are severely injured in shop class.
Bueller.
When you were in school,
Bueller.
did you ever cut class?
Bueller.
Yeah, I guess I did. Sure, most kids cut classes.
Good, sign this. He's sick.
I get so lonely when I hear that third attendance bell ring and all my kids are not here.
7 years of college down the drain.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
You lack discipline.
As long as I'm here, there will be no grades or gold stars or demerits. We're gonna have recess all the time. Woo! Go, play, and have fun now!
Okay, folks, I am so excited to have today's guest on the show. He's an actor whose career spans back to the early 1970s. He's been on Hawaii Five-0, Beretta, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, How the West Was Won, Touched by an Angel, NCIS, Heroes, Bring 'Em Back Alive, Kenny Rogers' Gambler series of TV movies, and more recently, Supergirl on the CW, and that's just to name a few. Some of his movie credits include Breakaway, Diplomatic Immunity, Cuffs with Christian Slater, and Contagion. But what really put him on the map for science fiction fans was his role as Alan Bradley, a.k.a. Tron, in the 1982 classic science fiction film of the same name, a role which he reprised for Tron Legacy in 2010. Not only was Tron a major hit for this man, but he was also the star of two wildly successful TV shows that are still popular to this day, Scarecrow and Mrs. King, and Babylon 5, in which he played Captain John Sheridan. He's been a stage actor, a model, a novel writer, a member of the Board of Governors of the National Space Society, and a member of the National Board of Directors of the Screen Actors Guild's Hollywood Division. He's won several awards, including the Bravo Otto, the Golden Boots Award, the Western Heritage Awards Bronze Wrangler, and is a two-time winner of Sci-Fi Universe magazine's Reader's Choice Award for Best Actor in a Genre TV Series for Babylon 5. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to welcome to the show the beloved star, Bruce Boxleitner.
There he is, huh? Hey, Roger.
Hey, it's so awesome to have you here.
And we now finally speak to each other. It's
yes.
amazing, all this texting and emailing and so on and so forth. Anyway, it's good to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So before we truly get into it, I just wanted to mention that, not only you were a fixture on TV for me growing up, and I got to tell you, there was this one time where I got into an argument with this kid on the playground because he insisted that you were Howie on The Fall Guy, which was played by Douglas Barr. I had to set him straight and tell him, no, he's the Scarecrow.
I'm glad you set him straight. I'm glad you did. But I remembered, he wasn't far wrong for mistaking me because many people did over the years. Believe me, in a few cocktail lounges and so on, I catch a lot of drinks in the name of Doug Barr. They used to think I was saying, hey, aren't you that guy on The Fall Guy with Lee Majors? I said, I'm too weary to argue with the man or to say, no, I'm not, and then go, no, I never saw it. I would just say, yeah, that's me. So years later, somehow I got on a phone call. I was on a phone, or somebody was talking to Doug Barr, because he's been a very active television director. I haven't heard from him quite a few years, but this was years ago, and I said, I've got to talk to Doug. And they gave me the phone, and I said, Doug, this is Bruce Boxleitner. He says, you know how many drinks I've gotten off of you, Boxleitner? He had the same thing. So
that's
very
amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of those things. People don't really, the average television watcher, and I'm sure at any time, they see somebody that's very similar, and they automatically think it's you if they see you in life, And but and it's very, it's flattering. I mean, Doug was flattered by it too. I mean, he would go, yeah, that's me. So, but he did the same thing as I did.
That's funny. I thought it was just me and this kid.
Yeah, no. Well, you're probably the youngest version I ever heard of this story. It's mostly old barflies, but
that's hilarious.
Well, I'm glad you set him straight, Roger.
I did. I'm like, he's the Scarecrow. Yeah. He's the Bring 'Em Back Alive guy. Come on, man.
Yeah. What's with that?
So,
get your education, kid.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about your early life. Where are you from, and what led you into acting?
Well, way back when, I was born in 1950 in a town called Elgin, Illinois. It was really put on the map, northern Illinois, because they made Elgin watches, which was a very, very popular brand for big watch factory.
Right.
And anyway, I was only born in the hospital there. There was many people from Elgin want to claim me as a favorite son. I said, well, it was the only hospital in the area because I was raised in a small town called Crystal Lake, Illinois, which is now a very large town, and all of that has been engulfed by the suburban spread of Chicago, the north. But at that time, they were very distinct small towns, and I lived there till I was 10 years old, and then my dad started doing better, and we moved in closer to Chicago, to a place called Mount Prospect, Illinois. And that's where I, about 10, 11 years old, and went from there, junior high school to, high school. And then I left for the big city of Chicago, where after that I went to, I had fallen in love with plays. I mean, I was active in sports, but I never quite succeeded. I remember failing to get on the basketball team, and I think a day later I was pretty depressed about that. And I wasn't big on school anyway, but I had to, obviously. And I wandered into the tryouts for the fall play, and it was open and I had just become a sophomore. Freshman, you weren't allowed to attend that. You had to be maybe crew or something like that, but you could not be on the stage. That's the way it was. So anyway, I wandered into this audition, and basically I didn't know what I was doing, but I've always been a movie and television fan. I mean, voraciously. Yeah. So this whole thing about acting was intriguing to me. I always had a very active imagination as a boy, and something drew me to that room where they were holding the auditions, and I caught the eye of a wonderful English teacher who also was the head of the drama guild, and a woman that I have always paid homage to for the rest of my life, is saying if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I was, and where I became what I became, because she saw something in me, and she cast me, and it was Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians and Then There Were None, one of her famous mysteries.
Wow! And
she cast me as the young leading man, and I had no idea what to do with that, but but as that went on, I do remember that. When I saved the heroine at the end of the play and dispatched the bad guy, found him out and dispatched him, and the applause that happened, and there I was on stage in my high school theater, and I was totally bitten. And I thought, this is where I live. This is what I want to do. But I wouldn't know how to go about it.
Right.
It's
how did you get to Broadway? Because I saw a couple of newspaper reviews, which were all positive, and you were in Status Quo.
Oh, there were some negatives, believe me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it's Broadway.
Yeah,
that was the biggest of the big time. I mean, you've got to have a thick hide, because as much as anybody likes you, there's going to be the one that writes about you and hates you.
Right.
Or
right.
doesn't like what you did. I went to, well, really short, I went to drama school because of Mrs. Lukowitz, this teacher that she had influence. She had sent a couple of students in her past on to drama school, or interviews for drama school. Now, this was I was getting out of high school in 1968. I was not a very good student, I will admit, and I barely got out of high school. But I did I met with them. I auditioned for them. I had to memorize. I've forgotten because I was so stage struck in fear. I was just unconscious almost. But anyway, times were very turbulent then. We were in the middle of the riots and the burning and the civil rights marches, and then obviously even bigger than that was a war that was very unpopular.
Right.
And it was really heating up then. I was walking out right when the Tet Offensive happened in Vietnam.
Wow.
And they were calling up young men like, we had something that your generation has never had to know, was a thing called the draft. Right. And at 18, you went down to the city hall and you put your name in with the draft board. It was the law. And then it was by pure chance. So the reason I bring all that up is that my parents were very worried about what I was picking. I didn't do well in high school. I was average, okay? But I found that it was something in my heart and in my mind that I felt that I thought I would be good at. I just didn't know how to go about it. My young parents, bless them, I still have them, they were scared. We had no theater experience in our family. We had nobody to refer to, or, you just heard the things, oh my God, if you become an actor, you'll starve to death. How are you going to make a living?
Right.
These type of things. All the bad stories that have been made up over the years. Anyway, you're willing to do that if you love something so much, and you've got to do it. So you're willing to go through whatever you have to do. Anyway, I worked my way into the Goodman School of Drama in Chicago. It's a very prestigious drama school. It was also a repertory theater. So it had a big stage, had a student part of it was part of the Art Institute of Chicago, big arts complex on Michigan Avenue. It's no longer there now. It's down on Dearborn Street in the center of town, but it's more just a professional theater. This was a very prestigious school, and it was basically to teach, classics in theater and so on. So I did everything. I was exposed to everything from Shakespeare to Arthur Miller, to all the great playwrights and who was ever current. And we studied, and we did scene studies, and we learned ballet and dance, just so that you were in touch with your body and movement that an actor needs to be, and voice and speech and all the things. And I also worked backstage crew to make extra money as I was a kid.
Nice.
And but it was my first big adventure to leaving home. It was a great experience. But that's how I got. I did 3 years there, and to get to Broadway was another interesting story. There was a very big hit play. Chicago, at least then. I'm not so sure now, but I'm not. I haven't lived there in 50 years or more.
Wow.
So, it was a big theater town. It was always called Second City.
Right.
And compared to New York, who always likes to boast they're the number one, it's Broadway and off-Broadway. Well, Chicago gave us John Belushi and all those famous comedians from a group called Second City,
right? A
comedic group. And but anyway, we had a thriving, and especially in the late 60s, it was just a magical place, great theater. We got everything, all the road shows and national tours from New York. A lot of our, musicals like Hair and all those great Jesus Christ Superstar. Oh, my God, they saw it all. So it was a great creative time, a violent time. It was like incredible to be 18 years old, waiting to be drafted if that ever happened, and also be running around the streets of Chicago with all the crap that was going on in the Democratic Convention and all the Students for a Democratic Society bombing everybody, and big demonstrations, and then street theater. I actually did street theater as well.
Wow. With
a group out of them. So it was an exciting time, vibrant time, and of course the arts respond to all that.
Right.
So when Kent State happened, we shut down the theater school. We were, oh my gosh. Anyway, it's all so intense. I look back on it now. It's kind of funny, but we were very intense. And so all of that was going on, and that's how I auditioned for a understudy role. A friend of mine, my roommate, in fact, Johnny Hogan, there's a bunch of us guys had a place up on the north side of Lakeshore Drive, an old brownstone that we dominated, and it was Party Central, by the way. But but anyway, I auditioned for this understudy role at a prominent theater in Chicago on the north side, a big dinner theater, but it was known to debut up-and-coming Broadway plays and stuff like that. It was a great place for big playwrights to try out their new material, and it was the place to go for the latest in theater. And I auditioned. There was a play up there. It was called Status Quo Vadis.
Yes.
By Donald. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten his last name. Donald Driver. Yes. And he had done a thing called Your Own Thing. It was a hip musical of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, and doing your own thing.
Yep.
So 60s. So anyway, I auditioned for this. Johnny said, man, you look just like the guy that's the star of the Status Quo Vadis. It's a great play, because he'd already done a play that premiered there. And I said, Box, go up there and go uptown and get in on that audition. So, strangely enough, I did. I was doing children's theater. Goodman had a prestigious children's theater company. We put on these huge epic things, Robin Hood and all kinds of stuff, huge, expensive productions, especially for the inner city kids who don't even know televisions and things. They had no sense of it, so it was always a wild audience on the weekends. Anyway, long story short, I go up to the audition for Status Quo Vadis, and I get a call back, and I'm shocked. And so I went back and did it, and I auditioned for the head of the theater, not just the casting people. And in 2 weeks, I was understudying this other actor. And I know I was giving him he had no idea what was coming. I didn't know that at the time. Anyway, he was let go. He had some problems. He had caused some trouble, and the theater had let him go. And I stepped in just as they were taking this play. They were leaving the Ivanhoe Theater, and we were going to the Arena Stage in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Wow. So that's where I started it as the lead. Huh. And it was a huge ensemble, a comedy, a sort of a dramedy type of thing. It's very funny and witty. And I played this leather-jacketed punk from the streets who wrote poetry and worked in a factory all day long. So, and his steady climb through the various ladies he met, and he tried to climb up the ladder of society. Okay, probably seems pretty dim now, but at that time it was how it was staged and presented too. It was a terrific show and a terrific showpiece for me. And that's how eventually we did that for 8 weeks there. And then we took it back to Chicago, and then suddenly the backers there wanted to take it to Broadway. Wow. And we did out-of-town tryouts in Wilmington, Delaware. And then we went to the Great White Way, man, and it was something else. You know, we had 2 weeks of previews and invitation only for agents and news people, journalists, theatrical journalists. And then we had opening night, and I had been with this play for most of it, probably a good year, and opening night was our closing night.
Oh, wow.
We were bombed by, what's his name? He was the biggest critic at the time, and at that time the critics held such sway over the futures or destinies of Broadway shows.
Right.
That, oh, my God. What
wasn't Rex Reed, was it?
No, in fact, but it was Rex Reed who read those reviews to my family and all of our cast at Sardi's. That's what you did. That was tradition. At midnight when the paper came out. And he read John Simon's review, and he read, oh, gosh, I forgot the other guy. Anyway, the bigger guy. He was a very famous agent, a very, very famous theater writer, and he panned us, basically.
Oh, that's too bad.
Now, the whole thing came from... And then I was just in a state of shock because all these old Broadway hands had told me all during that whole process leading up to that, kid, don't sign the first contract they offer you. You hold out. You get a year contract, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be big. You're going to be a big star, destined to be big. I remember our out-of-town tryouts saying, this play is destined to be a classic. Yeah. That's not what the New York Times said, okay? So, anyway, what was I to do? Here I was. I just turned 21. And I was in New York. I was out in the street again. But the lucky thing is I had got an agent had seen me with a big agency in New York at the time during the previews.
Okay.
And everybody said, don't take the first offer that comes to you, remember? All these old hands and all these people. And I had this one phone call. Somebody had left a number. Call me. It was at a place called IFA, an International Famous Agency, which is now ICM.
Okay.
It was a merger thing happened there. But it's its original thing, and that's what happened. I met this agent. He wanted to handle me, and I did auditions all up and down. I was in a state of shock. And the funny thing is, Roger, I walked by the Brooks Atkinson Theater so many times. No show replaced us. They didn't have any booking for a while, so they still had my name up in the marquee, and they still had big pictures plastered all over, outside the front of the theater of the play, for pictures from the play. And there I was, and I used to walk by that and just almost cry. It was crazy because here I was, wearing out shoe leather, going from one audition to another. But I lived there probably another year, and then I got an offer to do. I did some summer stock in Ohio and that kind of thing, and started to really gain some more and more experiences in the theater, which I think is so important. But anyway, that was me, and then I got back to New York, and somebody suggested, what about the West Coast? What do you think? Because I wasn't really a song and dance man either. You kind of, New York, you have to be kind of a triple threat.
Right.
Because musicals and all the things, And, I said, deep in my heart, that's what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be on television.
Okay,
and she said to me, one of the agents there, she said, look, if you can get out to the West Coast and get out to Los Angeles, look up this man, a number. She gave me a couple of numbers to look up. And so I held on to those things. And lo and behold, back in Chicago, they want to do a revival of Status Quo Vadis again. And I didn't want to. It was such a hurtful experience dying in New York with it.
Right.
Embarrassment. But then I thought about it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll come back. But I want a one-way ticket to Los Angeles in my contract. And I did it for about 8 weeks. I went back to Chicago. It was revived. Chicagoans loved that play. It was standing room only. We had great return reviews despite the Broadway debacle. And I called up some friends that had been living out in the West Coast, other actors, and they said, yeah, come on, you can sleep on my couch for a while.
Nice.
You get yourself started. So I made my money in that Status Quo Vadis redo, and headed west, young man. Like Horace Greeley said, go west, young man, and find your fame and fortune. So I did, and that's just how I got out to L.A. There you go. That's the whole saga. Whew.
Nice.
That's basically it. I mean, it was just I was a very lucky young man.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
happened to be in some places at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And did it. And from then on, I started. I met with this guy John Crosby, and eventually he sent me out on things. I know I used to pester him every Friday. I'd go to IFA and sit in his outer office and be sitting there all day till the end of workday, and go, so what have you done for me today?
Nice.
This week. And, you have to. And you have to have, balls. I'm sorry, but that's what it is.
No, that's true.
You have to have a great deal of courage and willing to push yourself to the front of the line. And it's an aggressive thing, but that's how you make it.
Right.
And even now, I still have to. At 70 years old, I have to. I've got to work at it. I've got to really push it, because that's another whole. It's the other end of that spectrum.
Right. Right.
And you're young, starting out, and then you're older, trying to stay with it.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
It's an amazing business, and I have no regrets about that.
And in your early times on television, so you got the chance to work with people like Fred McMurray and Barry Bostwick and Robert Culp and Chuck McCann.
Oh, my God. I worked with Robert Blake. I worked with Jack Lord. I did two Hawaii 5-0s in Hawaii. And, oh, my God, all the hit shows. I did Gunsmoke with Festus.
Yep.
I loved working with him. And that later got me to How the West was won. It was that same company. But, Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking ancient history there to possibly your listeners.
Well, I was going to say, we just...
see how big she was, because, we're in the Me Too days now.
Yeah.
Well, she started that.
Oh, yeah.
She was very instrumental in breaking in. She and Margot Thomas and Valerie Harper and actresses of that ilk, especially through, Lucy had done it years earlier.
Right.
Lucille Ball with comedic women. But Mary Tyler Moore, my wife here watches those things religiously. Still, the reruns of those shows, because it was portraying a woman in in a man's world, the news business, and holding her own and her life and all her travails. And I did an episode of that. That was my first job in Hollywood, and it got me my Screen Actors Guild card. It was my entire paycheck went to it.
Wow!
But it was worth it, because then I could go further. I did. I think I did Gunsmoke after that. Then I did the very last episode shot of a series that had been on television for 20 years. 20 years.
Yeah.
And my associations with that would end up taking me even further. But that's when I went off and did all these episodic shows. Police Woman with Angie Dickinson. I tried to kill her under the Santa Monica Bridge and was shot for my troubles and killed at the last minute by this other cop that got me. But all those kind of people, I started hitting around doing those little guest star parts, and then they started to get bigger. It's just you had to kind of work your way around. I love to tell the story that at Universal, I auditioned for a show that would eventually become called Welcome Back, Kotter.
Oh, yeah.
And a young guy named Travolta jumped out of that show into stardom.
Wow.
John Travolta. And people forget what a huge impact John was. But on the casting agent's notes, I went in for the same role of Vinnie Barbarino.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Well, I looked too much out of a cornfield in Illinois than the streets of New York, okay? Even though I played this hood on Broadway. But out here, it's what you look like has a lot to do with it,
Right.
And I looked like a big corn-fed kid from the Midwest. And obviously John was from, Brooklyn and whatever.
Right, yeah.
So but I'm on one side are the notes on him, and on the other side of that paper, Reuben Cannon was the
producer,
casting agent,
the casting
and he had notes on both of us. I wish I had that paper. Maybe Travolta had it. I don't know, but it was interesting because that's how close I got. And so it was those type of things.
Yeah,
my big break was really on MGM's How the West Was Won, ABC.
Right, and wasn't James Arness one of your idols?
He was. Well, all of us our age, we all knew who Marshall Matt Dillon was.
Of course,
we grew up with him. 20 years on television. It was probably a mainstay in your viewing nights. It was one of them. It was an adult Western. And, because there were like 30, 40 Westerns on television at the time, TV series, and that was one of the big ones. And I had no idea. And, of course, I was, I loved him. I mean, and, I didn't, on one of the Gunsmoke that I did, the last one being shot of all those years, Jim wasn't in that episode. Or he was early on and he'd already left. But eventually I would meet him again in the pilot of a thing called The McKayans, which was the pilot for the miniseries format. By that time, television had changed after we came on after Roots, which was the groundbreaking miniseries that changed television.
Right.
For the next decade, maybe more. But we followed it, and our opening night, we had 50 share. That means we had half the viewing population of the United States. You don't get numbers like that anymore.
No.
They don't even look at those type of ratings anymore. That means all those televisions were watching.
Right.
That's how big Arness was. He was a massive presence, 6'7" of him.
Yeah.
He was a massive presence in television, in the television landscape. Everyone knew who he was.
Yeah.
And here he had a whole different character, big Western character, but he had a very different character. He was this big, brawling, rowdy mountain man dressed in buckskins and long flowing hair and mustache and everything. And He you can back it up on if you look at the Television Academy, not long before he passed away, he did interviews talking about the many years of Gunsmoke, and then leading into how the Western Run come about. And he actually told my story. He told two stories of casting of Burt Reynolds back in the Gunsmoke days.
Wow.
And then I'm very proud to say he talked about me being cast, and he had the final say in how the West was won, and he stuck by me. He saw my screen test. He wasn't able to perform in the screen test with me, but there was like 20-some guys. But and I had to do it twice because of the lighting they didn't like in it, and they didn't think it favored me very much, or something. I don't know, whatever it was. I probably stunk, and they just never had the courage to tell me that. But they stuck with me, and Arness liked me. And he said, no, I think ABC was pushing, the studio was pushing another guy. They really wanted him to be in the prime time. And stuck with me, and I'll be forever thankful.
Nice.
That they did. And it was a great association. I did How the West was Won. I did the last Gunsmoke TV movie with him.
Yep.
And we also did a remake of the Western Red River.
Red River,
together.
yep. With Ray Walston.
We had a long association, and we loved it. I loved him. He was quite a mentor to me. And he would, like I always say, he would be so embarrassed. He was a very shy man, outgoing in one way, but also very private, and he would probably balk at that. But a mentor is somebody that helps guide you, and and he had no idea that he was guiding me, and I was learning a lot by watching and being with him and performing with him, because he knew what it was like, unlike anybody else I'd ever met, to be the star of a television series.
Wow.
And you're the number one on the call sheet.
Yeah.
And how you deport yourself is how this will go on, how the day will go, And television is all about getting those days in, because you had a time frame, and you've got to do so many pages a day and things like that. And so when you set a good example and you're a professional, and he was, because he got to work over 20 years. Imagine all the great guest stars, from Betty Davis to, oh my God, everybody that came out from New York. Robert Redford was I mean, he worked with everybody who was just starting out until some of the greats that were doing their twilight years,
Yeah.
And he had, John Wayne had convinced him to do that role. He was under contract to Wayne back in the day, and they even had him introduce him in the very first episode of Gunsmoke. He did an introduction.
Oh, wow.
On camera. Yeah, you can look that up. It's cool.
Yeah.
There's a young man I know you're all going to like. His name is Jim Arness, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that was a huge endorsement back there in the 50s. Wayne was the biggest movie star in the world at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And so he didn't want to do this thing called television. So, and neither did Jim, because Jim was part of his company, and he wanted to be a movie star, and he'd been in a lot of films. Already, but but Wayne convinced him that this new medium was something he could, go far in, and he did.
Nice.
I think it still holds the record. Gunsmoke. I think it was some of Dick Wolf's, one of his Law and Orders, but with predominantly the same cast. I don't think there's another show that's beat it on an hour-long drama.
Right.
The same cast. 20 seasons.
What, even Bonanza was only like 15 years.
Yeah. Some came close, but never quite got there.
Yeah.
And Law and Order is, I think, there, but they've had numerous casts over the many years.
Right.
And, totally different ones,
Yeah.
And then some stayed with it. Great series. But, and we don't really have that today, Roger.
No,
we
don't.
We get 10 episodes seasons.
Yeah.
Those were, back in their day, they were doing 36 episodes a year, 30. It changed. But in my time in Hollywood, you did 22 a season.
Right.
That was 22 on the air, and your objective was to do 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Especially if you did 100 episodes, and then you could be sold into syndication, which doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So
I just wanted to jump ahead just a little bit here.
I'm sorry, I'm talking maybe too much.
No, please. I have so many other questions from those days, but I'll save them for another time.
No. We can go.
Well, I did want to mention my wife wanted me to tell you, because we rewatched that Mary Tyler Moore episode that you were in, and she just wanted me to tell you that she said you had great hair in it and she loved it.
That was the day of the big hair, man.
Yeah.
I had long hair, looked like a surfer boy. But yeah, that was those days. That really pigeonholes the early 70s, because that was like 1974 or 5. So
yeah.
I came out to L.A. in 73.
Yeah.
And so I was I know many people, my contemporaries, that it took years for them to finally get a job. I was that's why I'm saying I was a very lucky young man.
Yeah.
Came in at the right time, and luck has a great deal to do with it, but you got to be able to back it up.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
If they call on you, you've got to be able to back it up. And not everything was greatly successful, and I think I stunk in most of my early stuff because I was getting used to this, especially that Gunsmoke, strangely enough. I was way over the top. Oh my God, I don't want anybody I shouldn't even talk about it. Now they'll go look it up. But I was way over the top. I was learning about that black eye that looks at you from those tripods, that camera, learning the camera. And that's where Arness was greatly helpful to me.
That's amazing.
It's all about that camera.
Oh, absolutely.
You may be playing with everybody, but you got to be playing to that.
Yeah.
And it's got to be brought down.
Yep.
And I still work on it to this day, trying to be as minimalist as possible.
Right.
And it's all in the eyes, especially, when you get those tight close-ups and things like that.
And that's something that you don't get out of theater, because the theater you're so far
theater,
away.
You've got to hit the 100th row, the 50th row or whatever. You've got a huge house and balconies and everything, so it's a little larger. And that's where my formative experience came from. But acting is acting, and you just have to adapt to whatever the medium,
Right.
It's still the same process so far as creating character and learning your lines and blocking. And, camera blocking is different, though, You've got to always be aware of the camera. And Mary Tyler Moore was a 3-camera show. That was comedy.
Right. And
so it was live, and we had an audience. Obviously, they would edit and start over again if you needed to. Somebody flubbed a line or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was another experience, the Mary Tyler Moore show, because Ed Asner and Ted White. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He introduces me, as you noticed in that thing. He was, well, look who I found in the mailroom, that type of thing. And real quick, on that is, I'll never forget, I'm standing there and waiting for this little red light. He and I are standing there, and he is joking with me and kidding with me. And every time I'm damn near peeing myself. I'm laughing so hard. And then I've just got to come in with a big old, eating grin.
Yeah. You can say it.
And that was a genuine look, because this man had me in hysterics. He'd be mumbling under his breath, and what a comedic genius. It really was.
Oh,
what an exciting experience. I remember Valerie Harper, who played Rhoda, who would later have her own series, on that character, taking me aside and wanting to know all about me. How are you getting along? How long have you been out here? And, just welcome to the show. These people were so wonderful. And Mary Tyler Moore herself was so gracious.
Nice.
And
Gavin MacLeod, how was he?
A great experience. Gavin MacLeod, wonderful.
Yeah.
Murray's daughter.
Oh, that's right.
Murray's daughter, who has got this summer job, and no one has the heart to tell her that she's doing a terrible job. She's ruined Lou's coffee and everything, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, great stuff. And it was over there at CBS in the Valley, in Studio City, and it was just magic, because I lived like 2 blocks from the studio in an apartment building, and it was a wonderful time. I look back on that very fondly.
That's great.
But then, everything went on after all that, after How the West Was Won, and I did East of Eden and all these other miniseries. And my sci-fi world was coming.
Yeah.
Prepare
Prepare for a spine-tingling, nerve-shattering podcast featuring all your favorite monsters. You won't believe your ears when you listen to Monster Kid Radio. Hear your host, Derek M. Cook, and his ever-rotating stable of guests discuss your favorite classic and sometimes not-so-classic monster movies. Subscribe to Monster Kid Radio through iTunes or Stitcher, or visit monsterkidradio.net before the next weekly episode of Monster Kid Radio. Go through the archives for interviews with Sarah Karloff, Victoria Price, and Joel Hodgson. Listen to discussions about movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Island of Terror, and King Kong. And don't forget convention coverage from Monster Bash and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. Classic monsters, modern talk, and the head of Rondo Hatton, only on Monster Kid Radio!
Greetings, this is Mr. Lobo. Are you a sinsomniac? Do you stay up late and watch what normal people call bad movies till dawn? Black and white low-budget potboilers, box office bombs, West German talking car movies, rock bands versus monster movies, broken-down school films, midget zombie and midget spy flicks, guys in gorilla suit movies, even old TV commercials, inappropriate cartoons, drive-in snack bar ads, and worse? Well, we like to say they're not bad movies, just misunderstood. Stay up late with Miss Mittens, your host, Mr. Lobo, and a revolving door of special guests, fellow horror movie hosts, robot monsters, and lovely Real 7 girls for a late-night TV slumber party that we call Cinema Insomnia. You can watch us on channel OSI 74 for Roku. We even have some episodes on Amazon and Alpha Video DVD. You may never get a good night's sleep again.
Well, I mean, you had a jam-packed 4 years starting in 1980 because you did the Baltimore Bullet with James Coburn and Omar Sharif.
James
then
Coburn, yeah.
You were in Kenny Rogers' Gambler.
The Gambler, yeah. I played two guys named Billy.
Oh, really?
In both of those.
Oh, that's great.
I was Billy. What was my name? Billy something or Billy Joe something, and with James Coburn. Now, that was a low-budget movie. I was thrilled with James Coburn because he was our man Flint in the movies, and he was also in every great Western I ever loved.
Oh, yeah.
And he was in The Magnificent Seven. He was in The Great Escape. He was in all these incredible genre movies.
Yeah.
And he'd been in Sergio Leone's Fistful of Dynamite, or Duck You Sucker, whichever title you want to use. And so he was just larger than life to me as well. I seem to have sidekicked from James Arness, another gray-haired guy, big giant, to James Coburn, another silver-haired giant, to Kenny Rogers, another white-haired guy. So I was the sidekick, and now I'm the guy, and I could play every one of their biographies because I've got the white hair now, so and still have a head of hair. So, but anyway, James was great, and it was a low-budget film. Never got much play, but I worked with two giants, as far as I'm concerned. And Omar Sharif, who was like this legend from Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
And
Dr.
Funny
Zhivago.
Girl and all these great movies.
Yeah.
And so anyway, a great experience around them. And then Kenny, who became just a really great friend, and I probably did more hour per hour. I did 4 of those, and they were all 2-hour movies, from the first Gambler to the second Gambler.
Yeah.
They were all 2-nighters and 2 hours each.
Right.
So that was a lot of film time, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And we pretty much I had a great time with him. And
you said you never saw a guy who enjoyed his success so much as Kenny Rogers.
Yes. I mean, here was a guy that was when I did Gunsmoke, I worked with his partner from a very famous recording group that was Kenny Rogers in the first edition. I just dropped in to see what condition my condition. It was a very psychedelic rock group, strangely enough. And Kenny had been in every musical style there was. He told me he started up as a stand-up bass player in a jazz quartet.
Wow.
And that was one of Sinatra's favorite groups, where they would go after night after in Vegas, they'd go to this after hours. The Rat Pack would go to this after hour, this place, and these guys they'd be playing, and they'd all go to see them. I mean, think about it. All the Sammy Davis, and Joey Bishop, all of the whole Rat Pack bunch.
Yeah.
Dean Martin. They were all there at night, and they'd work till they'd all leave the place midday, mid-morning.
Wow.
And go sleep off for their shows the next night. Wow. So. No, Kenny was a great, larger-than-life character, and he enjoyed it, his success. I say that because I got to know him over the years, and he bought and sold homes. He had so many hobbies, and his photography hobby. He did 2 great photographic coffee table books. One was called Just Some of My Friends, and I was between Michael Jackson and Elizabeth Taylor. Wonderful Horrell-type photos that he made.
Wow.
And these were people that he knew,
Yeah.
From the president to ex-presidents to people of all walks of the recording world and the movie and television world. And but America loved him. The world loved him.
Oh, yeah.
He had that kind of quality that you still could hum his songs. And he said, I may have not been the greatest voice in the world, but I knew how to phrase a lyric.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true, Because essentially, he was a musical storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
And he knew how to phrase it.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I just love the man, and he was a terrific influence on me as well. Because you see how you see someone who were making tremendous. When we did the original Gambler, where I was Billy Montana, his goofball sidekick, like I was with James Coburn, only I was a wannabe gambler, card player, card sharp,
right?
And I keep goofing up everything and getting in trouble, and he'd have to bail me out. But Kenny, I remember we were in old Tucson, Arizona, outside the train, and we were taking pictures, and I think he was going to be on the front of Time magazine. He had scored bigger than any recording artist, other than maybe the Beatles prior to that, in such a record amount of time and I think Power to the County came out that week while we were doing that, and it went straight to number 1.
Yeah.
And another story song, but they were very simple.
Yeah.
And, he didn't I don't think he considered himself a country player. He just was a boy from the projects of Houston, raised in poverty, and he made it big.
Yeah. I mean, I still have. I was just going to say, I still have his 8-track from when I was a kid that has, I think it was his greatest hits. I'll throw it in every once in a while.
Yeah. And certainly the Gambler's in there. So I went out hiking the other day, and I had my little earplugs in and my phone, and I turned on, and the first song that came on was that. And I went, yay, this is a good day.
Nice.
And the Gambler,
Yeah.
Because I kind of think it is my theme song, too, in a way.
Yeah.
It's a gamble,
Yeah, that's true.
It's a great lesson of that song in its simplistic way. Life is a gamble.
Yeah.
You got to know these certain things to survive it. So.
And speaking of gambles,
and that.
I'm sorry. You go ahead. Go ahead.
No. You're the host here.
All right. Well, I was going to say.
I just ramble on, and you gotta rein me in, Roger.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of gambles, when you got the script for Tron, which was shortly after that. What was going through your mind? Did you think it was going to work? Again, that was probably a gamble, right?
Well, I always want to say I think what was the most exciting part about doing the film Tron was that it was first of all, I was a kid raised on Disney, and to work at Disney Studios was huge.
Oh, okay.
And to work with Jeff Bridges, who was one of those contemporaries that I always looked to see what he was doing. I always enjoyed what he did. You have peers.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel worthy as a peer, but I remember him back in the Last Picture Show and Bad Company and all these movies that I used to go see him in the movies. So the idea that he was involved, I was, oh my God, yes, I want to. But we were doing a pioneering thing, and it became more and more evident as we were doing it that, well, this could just fail. All pioneers can fail.
Right.
All pioneers do fail at one time or another, and this was a pioneering effort to try to expand on an animation. And we had the computer coming in as this also. It's such a timepiece now when you look at it.
Yeah, I just rewatched
Captures
it.
a certain period.
Yeah.
You know, I have no idea what DOS means, but my wife tells me that was a computer system.
Yeah. And how
and here I am, Alan Bradley, computer wizard. You know?
Well, that's why it's called acting.
Oh,
you know?
Lord. I'm talking to you on my landline, for Christ's sake, you know.
Hey,
anyway,
look, I was actually very glad when you said that because I knew the signal would be perfect.
There you go. Yeah, you know. Anyway, but it was. I felt it was exciting. It was different.
Yeah.
Remember, I was playing young Wyatt Earp out in Arizona as well.
Oh, yeah.
And when I read the script, and when I got back to Hollywood, I met with him. And at first, I told my agent, I don't want to do it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I'm so out of that. Whatever the hell they're talking about, you know.
Yeah.
I was used to wiping horse crap off my boot and walking with spurs on and a 6-gun. But I don't know how I'm going to be in these. I guess they're tights and a helmet and, you know. Anyway, but it did appeal to me. It did. I just was fighting it because it scared the devil out of me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how I react. Well, then I don't want to do it, you know. Well, he said, you come here, they want to meet with you. And after the movie was over, I went back to Hollywood and I met with him. Now, where that script is, I love to tell the story that I was sitting on this little buckskin horse that I was riding in the movie, which was called I Married Wyatt Earp. It was for NBC, starring her debut,
Marie Osmond.
What's her name? Marie Osmond.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh well. Anyway, it was good, and it really did well. But because she was so popular at that time, so when singing stars were doing television and movies. That's Elvis created that stuff. Right. So anyway, I read this script. I got very frustrated, and then they were calling everybody, get ready, we're going to do this shot now. And so I shoved that script inside of the saddlebag on that horse and forgot completely about it. Some wrangler somewhere had a first draft of the Disney movie Tron, which there were collectors now would pay a lot of money for.
Wow.
We probably went out and he probably opened it up and said, what the hell is this? Spit some tobacco on it and threw it away.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. But, wranglers are pretty salty characters. But, yeah, I didn't think anything of it. Then I came back to Hollywood and I went and met Steven Lisberger and Don, what was his last name? His partner in that, co-producer, Donald Kushner.
Kushner, yeah.
See? This is when I have some memory left. Anyway, and I met with them, and they sort of interviewed me, and then he showed me some cells that they had done. And I got an idea of it, because I remember auditioning for Star Wars and didn't get it. I was in there in cowboy boots and jeans, and I don't know, like that put them off or something. I don't know. But I was about 6'2" and 3 in those, and that was too large for Luke Skywalker.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I looked at that and I said, well, it's not Star Wars. I'm thinking to myself, it's not Star Wars, but it looks kind of space-like, doesn't it? So it's inside a computer video game.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds kind of cool. And I got into it in my head, and I said, yep, I want to do this.
Nice.
And so I'm so glad I did.
And how difficult was it to make that movie with all the effects?
Well, because we didn't see any of the effects. It was difficult in imagining it, and thank God we had an expert storyboard, which Disney does so well. The storyboards were like these incredible. I wonder where they are to this day. I'm sure Steven Lisberger has them, or Harrison Ellenshaw. But the storyboards were just incredibly well done. So it gave Cindy and I and Jeff a mental image of what we were doing, because we were basically running around a totally black, velveteen, material-covered platforms, gangways, and things like that were all the sets that would later be drawn in. So, and what a better place for this movie. I have to always say that, in my mind, Disney was always the forefront of animation.
Yes.
It's basically where it really was created, Walt Disney, as we know it, with the great, which they still do, their animated classics and things. Those movies were, groundbreaking. And so what a better place to bring in this new form, this new technology in animation called CG at that, computer graphics.
Right.
It wasn't CGI at that time.
Right.
But there's some great stories. Harrison Ellenshaw and Steven, they have these great stories about the making of it, how they first, I think Steven came out from Boston, I believe, and he pitched it around town. And very much like George Lucas, who I think is his hero, George Lucas was unsuccessful in pitching Star Wars around it.
Right.
It came up to Richard Zanuck, I believe, or one of the Zanuck boys at 20th Century Fox, that took a chance on it.
Yeah.
And look what happened.
Yeah.
Changed the world. Well, I think, Steven had this idea about this thing and this technology and everything that he had. I think he did commercials or something back in Boston.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And somehow brought this thing and had an image of this guy, this sort of burly-looking energy thing, and it was called Neutron or something like that. And but then we got down to it. The costuming and everything was very interesting, and it gave you a sense of nothing's quite looked like this before. I kind of looked at it as this Flash Gordon type look. I had nothing to draw on,
right,
other than the classic characters of science fiction that I saw, like Flash Gordon and the hero stereotype.
And it does kind of have that quality, because the way the characters look when they're in the computer, they almost look like they came off of an old black and white movie, like an old Buster Crab.
Oh, it almost looks movie, like the old Buster Crab.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon's there, Buck Rogers.
Yeah. Exactly.
In the 21st century, and yes, I agree. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, we originally saw Rushes were all in black and white, so it almost and also the great classic Metropolis.
Yes,
the black and white silent film, that was so great. Or Things to Come, which is another great black and white classic. I've always been an old movie buff, so
cool.
All my references come from old movies and TV. But that's what it gave a sense of. And then I had to train with a guy to throw a Frisbee. We all threw Frisbees. Frisbee came up when I was a kid. When I was a kid, that's when it came out. And it was a phenomenon. And we all, put our kid brother or sisters, hit them in the head with it and things like that. It was a weapon. We had no idea how capable we were with it. But you could hurt somebody with that, throwing it at them. Anyway, but we all learned how to do that. But then I had to really learn how to do that. And here I had this little ranch out in north San Fernando Valley, and I'd be out in the horse corral with a guy named Sam Schatz or something. And he was a professional. I had no idea that this even existed. A professional Frisbee, competition Frisbee thrower.
Wow.
And boy, the things he could do with that thing was amazing, with more than one at the same time.
Wow.
And so he doubled everybody, all those guys that were my opponents in the game grid.
Yeah.
Even Sark himself.
Yeah.
Was that, because David couldn't do that at all. He was British.
Right.
They're not physical. Are you kidding me? That's why they play soccer, man. They can't use their hands. And Americans use our arms and our fists and our, But I'll get in trouble for that. But I love to poke fun. I love David. I do these virtual conventions with him still. I just saw him 2-3 weeks ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
On the same, I was here in the West Coast and the U.S., and he was in London, and it was evening there. I love him. I've done I did Tron with him, and I also did a miniseries with him called Zoya.
That's right.
In '95.
Yeah.
And so great. I love him.
He's awesome.
Curmudgeon, but who is such a great actor, and we have so much fun with that. But no, he did. He had to be doubled and all that sort of thing.
Okay.
But then you couldn't double that voice of his and his
tremendous
command on screen. And with Cindy and I ran more. If I had a Fitbit on me at that time, all the steps I would have counted that I had probably if it's supposed to, Fitbit loves you to get hit 10,000 a day. We probably did 50,000.
Wow.
I mean, running, jumping, climbing, all those things that weren't even used in the picture eventually. But we had much more footage than that. And like I said, it was all in black and white. And Jeff was this crazy guy, wonderful guy. I've been, remained friends with him all these years. And I so pray for him because he had announced that he had lymphoma.
Oh, geez.
And I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
But he's got the best doctors helping him. And I guess the thing is, at least last I heard, I don't know anything personally from him. I just want to make that clear. I want to go on what I've heard in the press. He announced that he had some of the finest doctors and that the tumor, whatever it was, has been shrinking and he's doing well.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, we can't. A world without Jeff Bridges, I'm going to tell you.
Oh, I know.
Sad one.
Yeah.
And I always say about Jeff, and I've seen him perform with his band, the Abiders, and, who doesn't love Jeff Bridges?
Right.
I mean, how can you not? Right? I mean, no matter all his great films.
Yeah. The Fisher King.
I always felt because I had, right. I mean, because I had worked with his father, Lloyd, another steadfast icon of television, especially, but many films, great films, High Noon with Gary Cooper, and all these great things in the past. And I worked with him before I ever worked with Jeff. He did a 3-parter on How the West Was Won, my storyline. I was directly involved with Lloyd, and he'd always go, you remind me so much of my son Jeff. How prophetic that would be.
Wow, that's crazy.
Working as Jeff Bridges' sometimes contentious friend.
Yeah.
As Alan Bradley with Kevin Flynn.
Right.
And in fact, to this day, I call him Flintster, and he calls me Tronsky.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's,
That's so awesome.
That's a first for you, Roger. I don't think I've ever mentioned that.
Oh, nice. Well, there we go. It's a first for Then Is Now.
Yeah. Flintster and Tronsky.
So then you guys went on to do the sequel, right? Tron Legacy?
Yeah. And you got to remember that 28 years later we did that. And the world had rotated much differently again. And there was always this rumor. And if it wasn't for San Diego Comic-Con and the reaction to, I guess, some footage that they showed at Big Hall H there with thousands of fans, Comic-Con fans, watching, and they just sneaked it in unannounced of Jeff as he looked, bearded and long hair and everything, in the Tron world and on a light cycle chase. Very short stuff, but apparently they were watching at Disney. And when the reaction to that movie, that little trailer, that footage, it was barely even a trailer. It had none of the professional thing of a trailer. It was just footage brought on. They freaked out. People were screaming, yelling, Tron, because the rumors had been out there, leaking, out there, and of something maybe was going to be happening in that way. And from what I heard, the project was greenlit. The go was given.
Wow.
I'm just watching that sneaked footage, by the way, because you weren't supposed to have any cameras or anything like that to record, but somebody cleverly did and then leaked it online.
Wow.
No, the rest is history.
Wow.
And I got a call from Disney, from Joe Kosinski and Sean Bailey, who was the head of production there, and Joe Kosinski, the director. And I was in tears, I have to tell you.
Really?
They called me afterwards. I couldn't believe it. They asked me, would I please consider appearing? It wasn't the big lead role. It wasn't Tron again. But just make a wonderful appearance in this picture. And what was I going to say, Roger?
Right.
No, hell with that. I don't. If it's not true, Tron 2.0 or something, I don't want to do it. What? Are you kidding me? Of course, I said yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jeff was a massive, Academy Award winner already.
Right.
I mean, it was that was quite a time for him. Crazy Heart, True Grit, and Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
He, so it was so good, and we shot that up in Vancouver, which really showed the world had changed. It wasn't at Disney Studios. anymore in Burbank. It was this massive production complex that was built for this in a place called Burnaby, in part of the Vancouver area in British Columbia.
Wow.
And massive sets and massive practical sets as well.
Nice.
It was quite amazing to see this little production that we started in 1981.
Yeah.
81, somewhere around there.
Did you ever think that it would still be popular to this day?
Oh my gosh. I think the latest thing I've seen is that Jared Leto wants to do a reboot of it.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's pretty great, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was out on some of the online, showbiz stuff.
Right.
That's in the pipeline, I guess. I have no idea. I don't know. Fans always think I know everything that's going on. I don't. It's way above my pay grade to know what's going to happen. I know there was considered the continuation of the legacy story, which I would have personally loved to see.
Yeah.
Because I think we kind of set up the sequel to that one.
Right.
I don't consider Tron Legacy a sequel. I consider it, I think, sort of the second chapter in a trilogy.
Right.
And I think the next one would have been that. But circumstances changed, as they do.
Right.
And it didn't come about. I think about 3-4 years ago it was about to. And maybe even more than that now. But they had something that they settled upon, script they settled on. And I know Joe Kosinski was to direct again.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. And the pleasure of doing that to me was also one other thing. Not only returning to that, that universe, but I also they hired me to screen test the young actors, actresses to play Sam Flynn and Quora.
Okay.
And is that her name, Quora? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. The one that, what's her name? Oh, God, who played her?
Off the top of my head, I should know this, too.
Yeah. Oh, God, I'll get it in a second. But anyway, Garrett Hedlund ended up getting the part, but I'll tell you, there probably was 10, 12 guys, all young, prominent, up-and-coming actors.
Yeah.
They had already been in some major films, and I got the honor to work with these kids. I mean, here I was, I was already in my 60s, and, I was, another whole era away. And so I was kind of starstruck at the people all the way up to, what's his name? Casey Affleck wanted desperately.
Right.
Casey was too old. He was already 34 at the time. 35,
oh, jeez.
something like that. And he took time out. We did it on a Saturday.
Yeah.
At a studio because he was such a Tron fan.
Wow.
That he wanted a crack at it.
Yeah.
And I got to work with Casey Affleck. How about that? Wow. Who I admire very much. So, it was I kind of knew it when, and I don't think I had seen Garrett prior to this, but then now maybe I had. I had a couple other things, and he was really focused at the time on doing this Jack Kerouac story on the road that Francis Ford Coppola had developed, and he was all about that, into small indies, independent,
right.
to do these big things. And I think I was talking to him one day, and I said, yeah, but I think, when you do these big tentpole productions, this is the argument. Yeah, I know the independent films, small films you want to do, those are very personal and everything, personal comments as films. But you do one of these and you get that big audience recognition, it's only going to help your independent pictures be seen.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, Olivia Wilde was the one who played Quora.
Olivia, yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. God almighty. Okay.
Took me a while to remember it, too.
Again, I hope okay. No, it's just, and interesting with her as well. She had been around already. She had grown up. She was a child actress,
Yeah.
So, but I think all those auditions over at Disney, and then I think they brought Garrett back again, and we kind of looked at him, and I got to be in kind of the process there. I was kind of in shock because Stephen and I were sitting there, and then I auditioned about 4 or 5 of the actresses for Quora, and they hadn't really anything they settled on. So what we did was the scene from Blade Runner, where he tells her those are not your memories.
Oh, okay.
that Sean Young did so wonderfully.
Yeah.
In her eyes and everything, looking and going. She was a replicant and wanted to believe that she was actually that girl, that young woman. And they had all these photos. Remember, it was such a great scene. And we did that scene. I got to play Harrison Ford playing,
Rick Deckard,
Blade Runner.
That's awesome.
It was just sci-fi wonderland. Anyway, but I remember sitting next to Stephen and we were watching Garrett. They narrowed it down to Garrett.
Yeah.
And then Olivia, and they're doing the scene down at the end of the Solar Sailor, reminiscent of the first Tron.
Yeah.
And Jeff looks back, and he's looking back at them. He's going off to knock on the universe or whatever he said on the game grid or whatever. Jeff was so great with his sort of witty sides in that movie, and we were sitting, and we were down below. This thing was up above us where they were shooting, and they were looking. We were right below them, and we kept nudging each other, going, "This is it. This is the two." Stephen, I think, so enjoyed, and I'm sure he still does, all things Tron, because this was his baby, his creation, and he, Disney took the chance on a first-time director,
right,
with millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That's always the pressure. The money that they've laid out. And here you are doing it. And so, it wasn't always a happy time. There was a lot of tension when we made the first one, as well as the second, I'm sure. And the time I was on it, I was only up there a few weeks all in all, back and forth. On Tron Legacy, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And, on the original Tron, it was scary. Exhilarating, all at the same time.
Well, there had been nothing like it before, so.
And there still hasn't anything that looks like it since.
Yeah.
Nothing looks like the original Tron.
Right.
It really doesn't when you look at those cells. Nothing quite looks like that.
Right.
We have many science fiction movies, okay? And this is actually, I think the reason you and I we're talking about it right now is that it's the science fiction that we are living.
Right.
We're actually living this in a strange way. And it's kind of naive little story. It predicts the world that we're living in.
Well, I mean, David Warner's character
so
had
ever.
Yeah, David Warner's character had a touch screen, a desk, a computer.
Yes, yeah.
It was just amazing.
Yeah. Master control program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it does make sense when you're on your computer and you're creating a program. That is a little you down there. That's your little presence.
Right.
That's your presence inside
Avatar.
It's an avatar, right? So there you have Avatar, right?
There you go.
So I mean, it's all a wonderful thing, but that, and probably from its history that when we came out, it was a giant kerfluffle. It did nothing.
I know it
scared the hell out of them.
Critically well, though.
Critically,
but that doesn't help.
Not so much. No, it was not a success critically. The box office was pretty limp, and that was pretty much Disney at the time.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody being offended, but Disney owns the world now. It runs the world.
Right.
I swear to you, every aspect.
Oh yeah.
But it is as a corporation, and but at that time, it wasn't doing so well. It was running right into the ground.
Yeah.
In fact, it was going financially. A lot of troubles. Ron Miller, the son-in-law of Disney, was running it at the time, and I don't think he was probably the best choice for that.
Right.
He did greenlight that Tron. Okay, I mean,
yeah.
But I had heard no major star at that time would work at Disney Studios.
Wow.
They were still making the Herbie Love Bug
yep.
movies and things like that,
yeah.
and they had the Black Hole, which was a dismal failure for them. And so I found it very courageous of them to speak well of them, that they took the chance on this other thing that had no guarantee of success.
Right.
The Black Hole, I believe, had a major author. I'm not sure, but this did not.
Right.
And a first-time creator-director. I mean, that's a huge gamble, and they were willing to do it. And we're still talking about that movie today.
Well, exactly.
I did also Tron Uprising, the animated
yep.
Version, which I thought was very stylish. I was very disappointed. It seems they have a love-hate relationship with Tron. It's their original franchise, and yet I've done the video games and voice work in that,
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, but yet everyone knows what Tron is.
Right.
Maybe they never even saw it, but they know that word.
Right.
You know, they know the name. They go, wouldn't that something to do with video games or something?
Right.
You know?
That's incredible.
But,
so after Tron, you then went on for TV to do Bring 'Em Back Alive and Scarecrow and Mrs. King. How was sort of that segue for you in terms of career?
Well, I and, strangely enough, this was the way I was thinking. I had switched agents. I had a major manager this time, a very flamboyant man named Jay Bernstein, who was quite renowned in Hollywood at that time. And he was known as the Star Maker. And they don't have these kind of characters anymore in Hollywood. And we're lesser for it. There were much more colorful people, much bigger personalities. It's kind of crazy now. It's so corporate that no one really stands out as much as they used to. That's my critique of today. What happened was Tron came out kind of limp, and I said, I'm not a movie star. You best go back to television. Now, what was the current rate? No, and I'm cleaning that up, by the way, when I say that. I went, holy, you know what?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. This isn't where I belong, I guess. Anyway, I had these television opportunities, and I had this like major manager agency with William Morris. Now I'm in the William Morris agency. I'm with Jay Bernstein representing me, and my life changed a great deal from that. And I want to thank Tron as well, because it gave me cachet as well.
Right.
Something he'd just come out of Disney's Tron. You know, in this business here, we all know the films sometimes in their own time, and I think this is a good example, aren't as appreciated, and then years later, much more appreciated. You know,
Right.
and then sometimes they're classics now. They're called classics and things like that.
Yeah.
But they were literal bombs, you know, at the time.
Yeah, like Blade
It's just
Runner.
a period. Blade Runner was the same way. That was a seminal summer of films. With I think it was a major Star Trek movie, Wrath of Khan. Was it possibly?
Star Trek 2, yeah.
You had,
John Carpenter's The Thing, another bomb that's a huge
The Thing.
hit.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
E.T.
Yeah.
You know, for the kids.
Right.
I always said Tron could kick that alien's ass. But anyway, that's another story. Anyway, what was a big franchise at that time in the films, and traditionally television always kind of followed with some kind of a copy of it.
Right.
And it was the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
So and the Indiana Jones series. So they were searching around for somebody to play on ABC. It was Tales of the Gold Monkey, and then CBS had this thing, Frank Buck's Bring 'Em Back Alive, all taking place in a sort of vintage old movie type of look to it, and like Raiders so successfully did.
Right.
The old serials. And I was offered by Don Belisarius, but I'd already given my word to the head of CBS, Bud Grant, that if we did a series, Jay and I said we would do it at CBS. I had been successful there with some other things, and so they wanted to do it. And Don Belisario called me personally, which was so not right, not according to the rules.
Right.
He called representation, not the actors. And he tried to, you got to do this. It's just right up your alley. I like what you do, kid. Blah blah blah. He's this tough ex-Marine.
Yeah.
He created, Cripes, all the great.
Like Airwolf and
Magnum PI, Airwolf, you name them. I mean, all those things. And currently NCIS, which he did for years, created that. So anyway, I said, and here's the kind of guy I was. So I guess I am from the Midwest, where your word is your bond, and when a handshake is a handshake. And I said, no, I can't do that, Mr. Belisario. I've already given my word to Bud Grant at CBS that we would do a series for them, but I thank you so much, and I think he cursed under his breath and hung up on me. But anyway, I don't know how he got my number either. But I remember turning that down in the middle of my kitchen.
Oh, geez.
And so we went further with it. Now, Frank Buck was an actual character. He was a big game hunter, but not in the sense of hunting and shooting. In fact, a number of zoos in the world, and San Diego Zoo and Brooklyn Zoo, without him, they would have never existed.
Wow.
He saved many, many animals from extinction, especially the white rhino up in northern India, and which was going extinct at that time. And this is back in the 1920s, is where he was really more active as a young. He wrote many, many books. Bring Him Back Alive was a huge hit book. I know because I was sent from fans first editions of that book.
Wow.
And Jungle Trails, Tiger Fangs, a number of his bestsellers, of his adventures in the animal world. But what we did was, taking the cue from Spielberg, was World War II, or impending World War II, the years before it in the 30s. So we kind of brought him up to date. But what he actually did, too, is he filmed a lot of his adventures in the early days, the camera crew, him fighting a boa constrictor and things like that, and trying to get it caged, and tigers and so on and so forth. And he was quite a back when they did those movie serials, in between the things. Yeah. And so his Frank Buck's Bring Him Back Alive was a big. I was shown pictures of marquees and major theaters on Broadway and everything, playing his Columbia serials.
Right.
And he had some plots in them. I have a photograph of him with a .45 automatic and his pith helmet on, looking dangerous, like something was coming at him or something, And and he used to shoot them, some of those adventure things, on the Columbia back lot. Strangely enough, that's where we shot our series.
Wow.
So there was a lot of enthusiasm about it, but we lost out finally after one season, because back in those days, three networks plus your local station.
Right.
And, that was dueling every night for the top spot for that audience. And we came in always second to the 10th season of Happy Days, which was a juggernaut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after 17, 18 episodes or something like that, I think we got to a full 22. Bud Grant called me. I would be calling him with the latest ratings, and I'd see the producers coming onto the set, and I would hang my head going, "Oh my God," because they'd have what we call the overnights, and then we'd get later in the afternoon the actual rating.
Right.
And now it's so much quicker. It's demographics now, and hits and likes and all those things. So, and I go, how do I get through another day? Because I was beaten up in that show every week. I mean, it was great, but it was a very physical show.
Yeah.
And I hired Cindy Morgan from Tron to
Okay.
play the femme fatale in it.
Yeah.
And she did a number of them. She only had, I don't know how many episodes on it, but she loved doing it. And so anyway, it was great. I learned how to ride elephants.
Nice.
Fight with an old toothless lion. I wrestled an alligator in the thing. All kinds of things. A crocodile. I can't tell. I think it was a croc. And did so many fight scenes with Japanese soldiers and things. So we placed it in Singapore, which was really his actual location.
Okay.
That was where his headquarters was back in the 20s, Singapore, and in Malaysia. And he wasn't an African hunter. He was in Asia the whole time, in the South Pacific. And so we did that, and we had the impending kind of danger of slowly, imperialistic Japan was happening at the time.
Yep.
Spies, and we had it was a fun time. Fun time. It was like doing an old movie every time.
Yeah.
I would go into the Raffles Hotel, which is a famous hotel where all the great authors, Joseph Conrad, Somerset Maugham, all the Graham Greene, all these famous British authors of the time had carved their names in the bar there. at the famous Raffles Hotel, and there was always a place of intrigue with spies and all these kind of people. Very much like Casablanca, Rick's Cafe America in Casablanca. And so we always had those kind of we blended those spy stories and espionage. In with my normal.
I just remember as a kid, my friends and I being bummed when it didn't come back. You know, it's like, oh.
I know, you were bummed. Oh, was I bummed?
Well, yeah.
But the reason was we were killed in the ratings. We had strong we had strong ratings, believe me. You guys were contributing to it.
Yeah.
But it was the Happy Days thing. So.
Yeah.
But Grant said, because they love the effort we put into it, but he said, don't worry, I'm going to find you something better. And this goofy script came along, and I had a Western offer, a contemporary Western story that Columbia was doing called The Yellow Rose.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like another version of Dallas type of thing, a contemporary thing. And Sam Elliott was starring in that. And then there was this goofy thing called The Scarecrow and Mrs. King. And it was about a housewife, how she gets tangled up with this spy through no fault of her own,
right?
And ends up on this madcap adventure with him in the world, saving the free world. Okay,
right.
So I looked at that and I kind of almost flipped a coin, going, "Okay, my real love would be to do The Yellow Rose." John Wilder produced, and there was this crazy couple of that wrote Scarecrow. I forget their names, but anyway, they were one of a guy-gal combination there.
Oh yeah.
And they were great. Eugenie Ross Lemming and Brad Buckner, something like Buckner. Yeah. Anyway, they were wonderful. And when I went to meet with them, I was totally hooked. I had to go audition for that for CBS, and Kate Jackson and I were brought together. She was going to start, and I thought, Roger, you got to think about these type of things. But I'm going, she's Charlie's Angel. In my time, they were the top.
Oh yeah,
that was as big as you could get. Charlie's Angels. Okay?
Yeah,
and I remember them. Farrah Fawcett.
Oh yeah,
and
Cheryl Ladd.
Kate and Cheryl Ladd and all of them. And I've since worked with 3 of them. I never got to work with Farrah, but I got to work with what was the other one? Beautiful brunette as well. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, I worked with Cheryl a couple of times as well. So, but Kate was this very funny, quirky woman, and I thought, my God, she always played kind of serious in Charlie's Angels I saw. So, anyway, we developed. They had the guy that was going to direct the pilot, and we got together and we developed, I think, 3 scenes. Actually 5, but I think we only really fully developed 3. And then we took them before all the network heads and the network and studios. This was going to be Warner Brothers Television now. It was quite hair-raising. I was in such a daze when I walked out of the room. We actually did it, and they laughed. Imagine, Roger, studio executives laughing. Unheard of. These are jauntist, cynical television business bureaucrats.
Right.
Okay? Nothing moves them. And we actually had them belly laughing. There was some scenes from the pilot of that. And so I walked out of the room, and Kate said, "I think that went very well, very well." I think there were like 2 or 3 other guys that they had. I think David Soul was one of them, who was an old friend of Kate. I think there were a couple guys that were maybe in contention, but I was on the number 1 slot. And I thank God that I helped win them over.
Oh, yeah.
And we started that, and it was a great association. That's really because that's probably the biggest in television I got to.
Oh, yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
I mean, we started, I think we were on Monday nights.
Yep.
CBS, and we killed it. I mean, we killed it. Our first week, we were like in number 3 or number 2 or somewhere up there. I forget who was the long-lasting number 1, but I think, and I don't think we ever got lower than 4 years. I think we were still in the top 20.
Yeah, you guys were up against one of the later seasons of Heart to Heart, I think.
Probably was, but that was the time of that kind of the couples shows. It started with kind of Heart to Heart, which actually harkens back to the old Thin Man mysteries and so on and so forth back in the 30s and 40s. William Powell, Myrna Loy, and the kind of comical drama, adventure type of thing. And we had a lot of that. I so enjoyed that series. I worked my tail off on that. But Katie and I thought, developed a chemistry.
Yeah.
That we were unusual. We weren't, I don't think you looked right away and went, oh my God, they're perfect. No, we developed it. We developed Lee and Amanda to the point where we would occasionally go off book. And she was a master at that.
Nice.
She really was. She was masterful in how she could take it, and then she could rattle off dialogue, so fast. And yet she would go off, and I would just follow her lead on it.
Right.
And come up with stuff that I never knew I could do. So that was, an amazing time.
You know what's really funny?
Unfortunately,
No, go ahead.
Go on. No. Until she became ill, we were still going strong.
Yeah. I was going to say, what's really funny about when you think about that first episode, you couldn't get away with the main plot point today, where you run up to her and hand her the package and say, "Hey, give it to the guy in the red hat," and then take off.
Which was such a sight gag, but it worked.
Right.
But she gives that look, and then the whole train car turns around. They all have fezzes on.
Yeah.
From some group. Oh, it was too much. I mean, it was those kind of things, but it's how that stuff, those are stereotypes all come from something, and cliches.
Right.
But, if you do it right, it still works.
But not even the stereotype. What I was talking about was the fact that he just hands her a package and she has no idea who it is. Nowadays, people would go, "It's a bomb. It's a bomb."
It's a bomb. Yes, exactly, exactly. But she had no idea. She's standing there with her house coat on, with her slip on, and underneath. And when she turns, I love it because she says, "Do you have a ticket?" "I don't have a ticket." She says, "Well, what do you have?" "What? I'm here in my, I'm only in a house coat of my slipper, dressing gown, or whatever." And all the guys look,
Yeah. They'll lean over.
"Why are you here?" The conductor. We all played very, very well. And of course, I'm getting my ass kicked out in the. Out on the train, by the thugs, by the KGB guys, and so all the while. But it worked, and as zany as it was a total fantasy type show, and it was zany, and we went to Europe and filmed it in the summer of '84, which really worked. The Cold War was still going on, and we had all these marvelous German and Austrian and English actors to work with, and it was a great time. Great time in my life.
Hello, this is Rod Barnett. I'm the host of The Bloody Pit, the podcast that examines films from across the decades. On The Bloody Pit, we have several ongoing series of shows within the show focused on specific things in genre cinema that I and my co-hosts find fascinating. There's a long-running series focused on Italian maestro Antonio Margheriti's films from the 1960s all the way up through 1990. There's an on-again, off-again series focused on 1970s science fiction films. There's an in-depth look at the Western movies that William Castle made before he struck out on his own and became the horror auteur that we know and love. A look at the classic Coffin Joe films from Brazil, and our long-term project to look at every Universal horror film made in the 1940s. That's a long project, people. It's going to take us a long time. Sprinkled in amongst those are various other episodes focused on other stranger areas of cinema, like Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, and even some obscure British crime films from time to time. So join me and my rotating crew of co-hosts as we examine the stranger side of cinema through an exploitation lens. Except when we don't? Yeah, you never really know exactly what to expect on The Bloody Pit. So join me for The Bloody Pit.
Shark Bites Podcast. It's the greatest show in history. From the Dorkening Network, hosted by a nerd who's named Patsy. From movie reviews to tips on surviving the coronavirus, Shark Bites has it all. Follow us on Facebook and suggest topics at sharkbitespod@gmail.com. Available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Hey folks, I just wanted to take a minute here to tell you about the hosting service that we use at Haven Podcasts. Podserve.fm. Podcast hosting has never been easier. They do all the work to get your podcast on Apple Podcasts and other major podcast networks. They help you navigate the podcasting world, whether you're brand new or have years of experience. Folks, I can't tell you how happy I am with their service. When I first started this podcast, I searched around intensely for the right hosting platform. I found Podserve and used their simple 4-step process, and in a short amount of time, my podcasts were on the internet and available through all the major podcast networks. And their customer support is unreal. Every time I goof things up and make a mistake, like posting the wrong show to the wrong feed, I email them, and I kid you not, within minutes I get a response and the problem is resolved. And they're the only podcasting host that actually helps you get listeners. Other podcast hosts stop at podcast upload and don't help promote your podcast. Well, Podserve makes sure your podcast is seen by thousands of people. The promotion is free, and they put you on podparadise.com, which has over 5,000 visits a day from avid podcast listeners and is growing every day. Each day, Pod Paradise selects 5 podcasts to spotlight on their front page. Maybe yours could be there soon. Podserve's pricing is simple. Only $19 a month. That's it. No tiered pricing platform, just one low fee. For $19 a month, you get unlimited storage, unlimited podcasts, free podcast promotion, your podcasts on all platforms, detailed download analytics, one-on-one customer support. You pay month to month, and you can cancel at any time. And when you sign up, you get 14 days free. You don't even have to give them your credit card. I love their service so much I put a reminder in my phone to add my credit card when the 14 days was almost up. I couldn't give them my $19 fast enough. I'm telling you, I really didn't believe it until I actually signed up and saw my podcasts on everything from iTunes to Stitcher and Spotify and more in a ridiculously short amount of time. So if you've got a podcast and you don't have a hosting platform, I highly recommend podserve.fm. Check them out. And you were not only great friends with Kate Jackson, but also Beverly Garland, who I love.
Beverly Garland, what a lovely
awesome.
woman. She is so great, and she was so perfect for that.
Yeah.
The sort of dithering Dottie. I mean, she was, clams again, dear. She always had these great one-liners. And she was great that way off camera as well. It was a constant laugh with her. And, she owns a hotel out here. It's called the Beverly Garland.
That's right.
In the valley here off of Vineland. And I often saw her at events there after, and many years after she would be there. And she was a dear soul, really was.
Nice.
And she had a long career herself.
Oh, yeah.
She was one of the original scream queens.
Oh, yeah. It Conquered the World.
Features.
Yes,
do you know your stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. She could scream and horror with the best of them.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Like
who took that from
Janet Leigh.
What's her name? Janet Leigh, right? All of them.
Yeah.
You had to make that look good, man, to sell it.
Oh, yeah.
And not easy, but no, we had some great, and I will always, we had. The original George Jefferson, who played Billy Milrose, my boss.
Oh, Sherman Hemsley, yeah.
Mel Stewart.
Oh, Mel Stewart, yeah.
Mel was there, and he was another one that I was in stitches. Every Friday night, Mel we would pretty much shoot the first part of the episode. We always kind of shot backwards in sequence, or out of sequence, but generally it was Friday night in Billy Melrose's office. It'd be the last thing scheduled on the thing for the weekend, and it was Mel telling us what the mission is. What is the thing? Scarecrow, and he was such a hoot, Mel. Oh God, I love that man. I could never keep a straight face in that office. I mean, we would be in hysterics half the time because he'd get flustered, and what the version of the lines of his that would come out would just, if they could have just printed those.
That's cool.
Instead of the actual lines, they were, because he'd always have these arm-length speeches, you know. I mean, Mel was a Korean War veteran. I mean, my God, he'd been through it all in his life, and he was the original George Jefferson in All in the Family.
That's right, yeah.
Which was such a monumental, groundbreaking series, TV series. And but we were in hysteria all the time. God bless him. You know, he's gone, and so's Beverly. But I just have such great memories of them.
Yeah.
And Katie, I haven't seen her in many years, but she survived, you know, breast cancer and everything. And that was why we originally went off. Otherwise, I think we would have continued on.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We were holding our own. Yeah, it was that. In the 1980s, you didn't mention the Big C, as John Wayne coined it. It was AIDS was just coming to the forefront, people's awareness of this thing that was going on, and also breast cancer, because cancer was a taboo in our society then to talk about it.
Right.
It was still a taboo. Now everyone wears it on their sleeve.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a breast cancer survivor, we champion that openly.
Right.
But in those times, and Katie, and we weren't told.
Wow.
None of the rest of the cast, none of us were told. It was a huge thing. And I respect that.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was baffling. It was 1987. We were in our third season.
No, it was like...
It came out in 83. So 4th season.
Yeah.
We were looking forward to that 5th, that all-important 5th season, you know?
Right.
And God bless her, it was hard for her.
Wow. That's too bad.
It was a very tearful goodbye to everybody when we had to close down. It wasn't easy for her.
Yeah.
So I can understand that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people go out of work very quickly.
Right.
And
I have to say, as a kid, you know, Kate Jackson was the reason I started watching the show. No offense, but...
Of course you did. No, I understand that. No, she was a Charlie's Angels. That was a huge cachet, man. That was a big rep. No one remembers. That was a very big television series.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It gave us the Farrah Fawcett poster.
Yep.
That sold in the millions, and my manager was her agent at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so Jay knew all about that. He helped create the Farrah Fawcett mystique.
That's amazing.
That famous poster that was sold millions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Millions of young men in college had her up on the wall, I'm sure, you know, in high school too, and Mom didn't like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know,
so funny.
It was a great time. You know, I look back on that, and I know, you know, it's from an older man's perspective, but I look back on the 80s with we made some damn good entertainment back then.
Oh yeah, it was the heyday
really
of TV action shows. I mean, did you get to hang out with any
car chase, man?
Yeah, did you hang out with any other stars?
Well, I knew the Dukes of Hazzard boys because I was doing. Oh yeah, I knew John.
Yeah.
And Tom, Will Pat, and John Schneider.
Yeah.
And also the guys that replaced them because Tom and John had gone on strike because of a thing called mysterious thing, Roger, called merchandising.
Yeah.
Wow, what a concept. They would make toys of you.
Yeah.
And sell them, you know, and make big profits. And the little likenesses of you didn't see a dime.
Right.
So they were one of the first guys, and they literally left it. And a guy named Byron Cherry, who played John Schneider's Luke, or whichever one they were. Anyway, the guys, they almost looked just like him. That was a lesson for me to learn too. Is go, we'll be careful what battle you pick.
Right. You can always be replaced.
The studio just replace you
Yep.
and put two guys who look just like you right in there, you know. And it was the General Lee car anyway. I mean, come on. And the Waylon Jennings song. So, you know, but those guys were right there on the lot with me because we were always having to stop as they went speeding by. You know, and then I'd wave at them or give them the finger. They'd give me it back, and you know, things like that.
Yeah.
So, all in fun. But
so,
you know.
So between Scarecrow and Mrs. King and Babylon 5, you did a ton of TV movies, and you did.
Yeah, because that was the reigning thing at that time.
Yeah.
The MOW, Movie of the Week.
You know,
and all the networks did them. I predominantly did CBS's and things because I had been kind of a CBS guy then.
Right. And then you also did Cuffs with Christian Slater. How was that shoot?
Well, I did Cuffs, and then I went on to do. Let's see, I was actually I did Cuffs and The Babe with John Goodman, almost simultaneously.
Right.
I was supposed to do another Gambler, and the Gambler franchise went from CBS, which was strong. I don't know why. I don't know the politics of it, really, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. But whatever happened, they were a couple of weeks almost about to do it. I auditioned over at Universal for a feature film starring John Goodman, playing Babe Ruth.
That's right.
And I went over there, and Arthur Hiller was the director, and I got called back a couple times in front of various people there at Universal and the production, and they wanted me to do the role of Jumpin' Joe Dugan, and it was going to be sort of an amalgamation of several players that Babe played with, but they kind of singled it down to one character. And anyway, and then I did Cuffs, which was a small. It was like I think a long night's work, a couple days, maybe 3-4 days on that thing.
Wow.
And I had to come back in the middle of the Babe and do another shot of me chasing the car down the street or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but anyway, it. Back in those days, you couldn't do 2 productions at the same time. And did I ever actually do it? When I think of it, maybe I didn't do it, and they wanted me to. And it was going to be some needed shooting, and I couldn't do it because I was already in Chicago on location doing The Babe. And so, but Cuffs with Christian was interesting. Christian was a rising star at the time. He hadn't done, True Lies and all those things. Didn't he do True Lies? What was it?
True Romance.
True Romance.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the other one, True Lies.
Yeah.
Arnold. But, so I got cast in that, auditioned for that to play his brother in the beginning. And I got myself shot and killed in church.
Yeah.
God, all my female fans literally hate that movie because I die in it. And I'm brutally killed by, what's his name? Leon. Oh, God, he always plays great heavies, always.
Oh, yeah.
He's a terrific character actor, but he's so badass in that one. He was just a terrible man. Anyway, he shoots me down in that. But I liked Christian a great deal. His mother was a prominent, Mary Jo Slater, the prominent casting agent in Hollywood for many years. She did originally my casting, I think, for Babylon 5. So she was involved in that.
Wow.
Yeah, she handled that show in its beginnings. Then it turned into somebody else, Fern Champion or somebody like that. Anyway, but she was, and every time I'd see her, if I went in for something, I'd always ask about Christian after that, going, "So how's your son, the actor?" And she'd go, "Yeah, Christian's doing this, that." So, we had a good time on that one.
Yeah.
I kept thinking to myself, I'm like working with young Jack Nicholson here. In fact, he was always compared to Jack Nicholson in his early portrayals,
Yeah.
And Cuffs was an unusual one. I loved it. I think it's a gem of a little movie.
Oh, it's definitely underrated.
The way definitely underrated. And he, how he would talk to the camera. That's a tough thing to do, and he did it very successfully.
Yeah.
Because we're all trained never to look at the camera.
Yeah.
You see through the camera or go by.
Right.
You may look through the shot, but never look into the lens. And so it's kind of that naked eye looking at you. There's nobody looking back, or another guy's eye. But I thought it was a cute movie.
Yeah.
I really did. I enjoy watching it every time.
My friends and I went and saw that at a late show. It was at like a 10 or 11 at night at the theater, and we came out and we just literally laughed for 20 minutes after that movie.
Oh, yeah. It's just great stuff, and great score to it, great music.
Yeah.
Everything. I still, when he goes to visit my grave at the cemetery, and the theme music starts playing underneath, I start crying like I'm actually dead there, for God's sake. I mean,
wow.
How dare they murdered his brother, who was such a good guy.
Yeah.
I've always been Joe Good Guy, too, and
that's
sometimes
right.
it would rankle me. But, that's That's what people think. That's not a bad thing.
No, it's good to be the good guy.
I've
Especially
always known the guys that play the villains want to play the hero, and the guys who always play the heroes always want to play the villains. So we're never happy, Never
well,
satisfied.
and it's interesting how it goes back to the beginning when you talked about being in 10 Little Indians and the rush you felt being the hero and saving the woman and saving the day, And
it's every little boy fantasy.
Exactly.
We're always a boy inside.
Oh yeah.
All the way through your life.
Absolutely.
You never change. There's always that childlike part of it, and I still make a living at making believe.
Oh yeah.
So I'm currently on Seth MacFarlane's The Orville.
Oh, that's right.
We're trying to do the third season right now.
Yeah,
It's been the longest third season in history
Yeah.
because it's taking over a year to do. Seriously. I had 3 episodes or something like that I'm doing, but I won't talk more about that until it comes on.
Okay.
So, anyway, but I just want to give a sort of heads up. I'm back in the world of outer space.
That's awesome.
And sci-fi, and it's been so much fun.
Well, speaking of that, I know I've kept you for quite a long time here. I just wanted to briefly touch on Babylon 5, which I do know is a little bittersweet because most of the cast are no longer with us.
Passed away.
Yeah. So, are you still in touch with like J. Michael Straczynski and Bill Mumy?
All the time. I just was emailing with him yesterday. In fact, yeah.
Nice.
It's another thing that people are rediscovering now on HBO Max.
Yes.
And I say that it's kicking butt on that. Apparently, that's
right.
what I was. We've been all talking about, and Billy. We were all on sort of a thread there, and Billy Mumy and Tracy Scoggins and Claudia Christian.
Nice.
And we've all been talking about how great it looks. It's all been dressed up and made new looking again.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
And because now it's been done that because they only had the DVD release and never like a Blu-ray or something like that.
Right.
Because of all the effect shots and how they were shot originally. They would have to go and reshoot them. That's what I was told. But now, now it looks great. So whatever they did it. Okay.
Yeah.
Technically. But it shows again its time in which it was made. Everything that is shot and filmed reflects in some way the time in which it was done.
Right.
Whether it's going back in time, or present, or in the future, it still comments in some way about filmmaking at the time and what is going on in the world at the time. Reflected in the stories and things like that. And Babylon 5 very much shows the 90s there. And the rise of the internet and the rise of, because that's when we had chat rooms suddenly, and Joe Straczynski knew all of this stuff, and he was doing it. He'd be out there all night long with fans across the world,
Yeah.
And we always prided ourselves at being the little space station that could.
Yeah.
Because we weren't Star Trek. We were the anti-Star Trek. And we wore it proudly. Proudly. We were the rebels.
Oh, absolutely. Because, you had action and adventure, but it was like a political thriller. There was so much
all
to
kinds
it.
of things. We had so much. We even had monsters,
Yeah.
Shadows.
The shadows.
We had creatures and imminent doom. There was always a sense of imminent doom. Star Trek was always about the future and going forward.
Yeah.
Right. Optimistic. Ours was pessimistic. Human beings dragging their garbage and their baggage wherever they go, war and pestilence and shit, and other races, and nobody was E.T. out there, okay?
Right.
Everybody was a badass alien racist,
Yeah.
And we were sometimes it was Fort Apache, and sometimes it was the United Nations.
Yeah.
But it was always, and that's what I love about it still to this day. That, and in that character, I got to go from A to Z.
Oh, yeah.
As a character, I got to live a full life.
Yeah.
From a young man to an older man.
Yeah.
And then,
And did you find when you walked into the role of John Sheridan, did you find that you could relate to him because the character had to sort of step in to fill in these big shoes. He had a lot to deal with. He had to catch up on things because he didn't know anything about the station. And did you, as an actor, feel the same way because you're coming into the second season, you're filling big shoes. You've got
It was a daunting experience. I always thank Claudia Christian, who if you'll look at those first couple episodes, I'm always with her, and she helped me with it.
Right.
Ease me in it, just keep the tension down. I don't know. I felt pretty good about it because I did know Doug. Oh God, he just flew out of my head. Doug. He was the executive producer. I'd done a Western with him in '79. I'll get it in a second. But anyway, but walking onto that set, I knew the DP, John Flynn. He had shot that I Married Wyatt Earp, so I knew him very well. I'd done a couple things with him. So, and it was shot out in North Hollywood. I didn't have to fly to Canada. I didn't have to. I was in a time when anything I did, I always had to leave the country. It was generally Canada, where all those movies of the week were shot, and they still are.
Doug Netter was
so I got this. Doug Netter. I'm sorry. Yes, Thank you. Doug was a salty old guy, and God, he was so enthusiastic about it. And I met this incredible genius of a guy named Joseph Michael Straczynski, this tall, lanky man with glasses, and I mainly always saw him behind these computer panels. I walked over to his office. He was always working, and he was the creator of this project. And anyway, I had a daunting experience. A lot of fans didn't readily accept me.
Right.
That was okay, but my job was to win them over, and I did.
Yeah.
I make no bones about that. I did everything I could. When others would go home at night, I would be in the office on the phone with 23 radio stations at that time, advertising my entrance in the Babylon 5 and giving publicity to Babylon 5.
Wow.
These are the things people don't realize you have to do.
Yeah.
So not only did I have to learn this character, but I also had to help sell this because it had been in danger of going off.
Right.
And it wasn't on regular networks. It was on a thing. It was a loose-knit group, a company. It was called P10, the P10 network, and it was these stations linked all throughout the country, and
that's right.
I think the UK and something like that. But they were all on at the different times.
Yeah.
The thing with Babylon 5 and with all TV viewing, at least in the past, was now we're in another whole era of binging and things like that, and we can go back and find something and bring it up and watch it now. Whereas, it might be on in Salt Lake City at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's in up in Connecticut on at 1 in the morning.
Right.
It was on these different bizarre times. And as a television audience, we were all trained by habit that we were on Monday night at 8 o'clock, it was always going to be on this station, okay? CBS, ABC, whatever, and NBC.
Yeah.
And you had a consistency there. You knew what you were looking for. But then we didn't have that with Babylon 5. So despite even that, it started to take hold. And there was a fan base, almost a cult fan base that grew up. And you had these websites, fan sites.
Right.
And chat rooms, and they'd be talking about these things and going on and on and on. From all over the world now, they were getting it. Especially over UK. We have an amazing audience in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
Always will.
And it's amazing, too, because the story had a couple of things. Was not only was it was a season-long story arc for the full 5 years, rather than being strictly episodic. Even though you can watch the episodes individually, it was the first time where a TV show had done that.
It had both. You could do a standalone story and yet still have the arc passing through.
And I think that influenced a lot of shows, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which would do the season-long story arcs after that,
Well, Roger, that was the next phase that was coming.
Yeah.
Television's ever changing with the technology that gets better, and also with how we write things. Like I say, actors today can, which was unheard of in my day, we do block shooting. We shoot out of sequence, like several episodes worth.
Right.
Which is what we're doing. Seth is doing right now with the Orville. We shoot. You got a big main set, and you shoot sequences, which is tough for actors. Sequences from the various episodes that are going to be on that set. It's actually very economic that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so you light, and you do this, and light, unless there's some different specific lighting, blah, 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 then you can do that. Say it's on the main bridge. So you do a bunch of that would be like CNC for us, command and control.
Right.
Claudia and I were always up there. What if we did 4 episodes worth of scenes on that? Oh,
Right,
God,
yeah.
I would have died at that time. Because it was the amount of dialogue I had in there to learn every night. And that was another thing, too, training. I had to train myself to learn these phenomenal lines, because I always say JMS wrote the best material I ever did, so far as an actor.
Yeah.
For an actor, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Some of the most incredible speeches and almost lyrical stuff, too, sometimes.
Right.
That were written in there. Maybe not necessarily Sheridan saying them, but like Jakar and, Andreas Katsoulis and Peter Jurasik. And
Kosh,
they always had these amazing monologues and things. So, and our guest stars always did.
Right.
So he wrote amazing material. But you're right. We were leaving the standalone 22 on the air format.
Right.
Okay? We were starting to do, and now I think practically everything. I don't watch a lot of network television. I do occasionally. I like this new one called Big Sky with the two women cops.
Yeah.
It is so crazy. The stuff they're doing on network television today compared to my day, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And what's cool too is that Babylon 5
compared to violence and.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say what's cool, too, is Babylon 5 also had a lot of... They would plant the seeds of storylines and things to come. And I just remember that being something like my friends and I would talk about incessantly, to the point where I definitely think that influenced the TV show Lost, because that got fans talking, too. Well, so-and-so said this, and this canister was sitting on the left, and now it's on the right. It means something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very much so, and also my dear beloved friend Mira Furlan was on Lost, and in fact, my wife and I just binged that over the shutdown.
Oh,
again.
Nice. Yeah.
We looked for things. I never got to watch it because I was working.
Right.
I never got to watch Lost.
Yeah.
But I do see what you're saying, and also was a way to see Mira again without the the Mimbari look.
Yeah.
Being in all that. Prosthetic makeup and everything.
Yeah.
Got to see her again. And, it's a testament. This was her particular story will always be with me, because she fled the brutal genocidal war in Bosnia.
Yep.
She and her husband.
Yep. She
was a major television star in former Yugoslavia and all that. And
wow.
She was branded a traitor by some and a hero by others, and they were kind of a Romeo and Juliet story, and fled and came through England and everything, through Europe and England, and ultimately here to the United States. So, and the brilliance also, you think of the Mimbari War and all that stuff was very real to her.
Mm.
And that's what gave it that extra gravitas that she gave it as an actress. She had a major career over there in Europe. She didn't, but wow. She started, I think, a more courageous person I've never met. And I just want to say that about her in this, that I loved her dearly as a friend. We always would go up to their house in dinner time, and we'd cook dinner. She'd have a big thing. It was always in their kitchen. She and her crazy, wild director husband, Goran. They're wonderful, wonderful people. And it was a tragic loss this last February.
Yes, yeah.
I was up in Canada doing the first thing that I had done since the COVID, a Hallmark movie, which is coming on tomorrow night, by the way.
Oh, nice.
And I got a call in the middle of the night up there, and it wasn't COVID. She had passed away from West Nile virus. She'd gotten stung by a mosquito.
Oh, that's terrible.
And was in a coma for a long time. And I wish someone had known. I didn't know. I'm a little bitter about that, but maybe it would have been tough.
Yeah.
But she was very beloved and missed. So, Babylon 5 has that, and I can't talk about the series without the loss that we have suffered from it. And I don't know if the number is 5 or 6 now. I'm not sure. But there's only a few of us remaining.
Yeah.
And those ones that I mentioned, I think, I don't hear from Jason Carter much anymore, but I do know he's among the living.
Yeah.
He was a crazy guy. He and I would every once in a while relive the American Revolution. At lunch, we'd always get into some heated debate about something. It was great.
That's funny.
Love Jason. He's a crazy man and a wonderful actor. we had some great actors. Jerry Doyle became one of my best friends. And even after we had finished, pretty much everybody goes their way when a series. There's only a few relationships you maintain, most parts, and mostly everybody goes their way, on to something else or what have you, and that's the way it was. But we'd only see each other when someone had passed and had a memorial or funeral.
Right.
And it's been tough. It really has. I mean, that's why it was hard for me personally to watch the series. I've only just now started to look at it again.
Yeah.
And out of fond memory. But it was very hard because it was too raw. That's a lot of people.
Yeah,
I don't know that, and there's been some fans saying, there's a curse on the show. I said, no, it's called real life.
Right.
Not everyone's going to live to be 100.
Right, yeah.
You just got to know that. And when you're young, that's hard to fathom, that you're not going to live to be an old elderly person. And not one elderly person in that cast, by the way. I mean, it wasn't. So I think Richard Biggs, who played her.
Yeah, Richard Biggs, yeah.
He played our wonderful Dr. Franklin, who I always felt was the character that was sort of the soul and conscience of the humans, at least, on the thing. And he was the youngest, and he was 43.
Wow.
So, Anyway, what were you at?
Well, I was just going to say that, you guys together as an ensemble really put together a legacy that I think stands the test of time. It already has. And, you've had a few sequel movies.
I hope now because of HBO Max.
Exactly.
I want to thank those people.
Yeah.
Because from what I'm hearing, that their ratings are, whatever they judge it by now, has been so huge, they're flabbergasted in a way. Because I think they kind of just put it on to do some filler, during this COVID shutdown and everyone being locked in for almost an entire year, there was a lot of content. We've been burning through a lot of content. People watching, binging became an all-time high, right?
Right. I mean, yeah.
You know that. I mean, we've all been doing it.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of prisoners of it, and we sought entertainment and relief from it all that's been going on. And I think they're kind of threw it on,
Yeah.
And I think they're kind of surprised it's beating their original stuff.
Yeah. I imagine.
I'm so proud of that. Not only the older fans, but I think their children. And, there's just a group of people that have heard about it, and now they have a chance to do it, to see it.
Oh, yeah. My son is 20, and I was telling him about it, and he's hooked on it now, watching it on HBO Max.
How good is that?
Yeah.
How great is that?
So.
That's excellent. But, it's a crazy, crazy world we're in, and I'm so happy that it's my older stuff. I guess Scarecrow and Mrs. King has been streaming, and I'm very good friends with Marty Cove, who plays Kreese, the sensei on.
Oh yeah.
On Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai, yeah.
There's which has done an screaming hit.
Yeah.
And Marty hadn't since those days when he was, in the Karate Kid films. I guess that is really another thing that has, just resonated with a generation. They all knew these movies, and this incredible. I'm just throwing a shout out to him, Marty Cove. He's a good buddy.
Nice.
He's back in Atlanta shooting right now. Season, was it 4?
3, I think.
And 3, okay. And so proud of it. And his clever young producer writers who took this thing and reimagined it and turned it right on its head, where the bad guys are like the most interesting guys. You feel for them. Billy Zabka and everything, this sort of lovable loser that just fails at everything he tries.
Right.
Yet you can't help being, pulling for him.
Yeah.
So, and then he's not that nice a guy, so it's crazy. But that's the stuff we're doing nowadays.
That's cool. Yeah.
Great.
So let's talk about what you got going on currently. You were on Cedar Cove with Andy McDowell.
Yeah, I did. I fell in with Hallmark. I've been doing some of their things for years,
nice.
And off and on. And especially the producer Larry Levinson, when they were shot more here. He doesn't do them anymore, but I did Cedar Cove. I've done I'm kind of doing the third installment. Tomorrow night I've got the third installment with, I play Danica McKellar's father, who was an ex-policeman and detective, and kind of get drawn into the murder mystery. And this one, in my own sort of trying to do my old investigation skills again.
Nice.
So it's kind of fun. And she's a sweetheart.
And you were on Supergirl
this
as
is
well?
our third one. It's called The Matchmaker Mysteries.
Matchmaker Mysteries, yeah.
Yeah. It's on, I think, at 8 o'clock. I forget what, tomorrow night. But
cool.
Anyway, I've been doing those. I did 1, 2, and 3, and then I did Cedar Cove, and I did Supergirl for 10 episodes.
Yeah.
I was always having to go to Vancouver. Hollywood North, they call it.
Did you replace Brent Spiner on that? Was he supposed to do the character?
He was supposed to do it, but I believe there was something personal happened, and he had to step back. And I guess he's fine. I mean, everything's good now. But I was next in line. I went in and met on that, and they're reimagining some classic characters. You know, bringing it over to time. That's what's going on right now. That's the trend, and it's good.
Nice.
And I had a ball doing that too. I only got up there and did a couple little things each time I went up there, but it added up to 10 episodes. Originally supposed to be do 2 or 4 or something like that, and I ended up doing 10.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Well, I was happy to see you on Supergirl. So.
Yeah, then again, you always wish. Well, I always think I could have done more, but no, it fit where it was supposed to fit. You got to always, you can't have it all, Bruce. Okay. So.
Well, Bruce, I'm going to bring this to a close because I've taken up a ton of your time. So, do you want to tell our listeners where they can find you online?
Yes, online you can go to my on Facebook and Instagram at I guess I'm Bruce Boxleitner. My wife handles all that. Anyway, at Bruce Boxleitner. And I did have a problem for a while there. Somebody else was going out there pretending to be me.
Oh no!
And it was quite a fight trying to get rid of them.
Wow!
But I'm out there at Boxleitner and Bruce. Right. My wife walked by and she heard me say that. I'm at Boxleitner and Bruce, and Instagram and Facebook.
All right, and Twitter too, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm out there.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Roger. I know it was a tug of war trying to get to talk to each other, but we finally did it.
We finally did it.
I hope you're happy with it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay. And I'd love to have you on the show again sometime. And also, I do another show where we talk about spaghetti westerns. So maybe you could come on sometime and talk about westerns.
Oh my God, spaghetti westerns! You just strung out. I just watched a great thing. I want to plug that was on Netflix. It's called Sad Hill Unearthed. It's a documentary about some fans that went out and found the great cemetery from the final sequence of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Wow.
And they resurrected it. They dug up. It's on Netflix. I just watched it before calling you.
Wow.
I had tears in my eyes by the end of it. I'm
awesome.
a huge spaghetti western fan.
Oh, excellent.
Going back to the first time I saw A Fistful of Dollars when I was a young usher in the movie theater in Mount Prospect, Illinois.
Oh, wow.
I knew every line in that thing, every scene. And I've always been.
That's
Sergio
great.
Leone, when I was in Rome 2 years ago, had to go to Cinecittà Studios and see where they shot all those great movies.
That's great.
So, anyway, we will do it again. Okay?
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Friend.
All right, take care.
You betcha. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Yep, bye. Well, we hope you enjoyed listening to the incredible and fascinating Bruce Boxleitner. He's always been one of my favorites. If you get a chance, I highly recommend Babylon 5, which, as of this recording, is on HBO Max, and Tron is on Disney+. Check out all the shows and films that Bruce has been in, past and present. It's truly a rewarding experience. Now remember, you can send your feedback to thenisnow42@gmail.com. You can also join in the conversation at our Facebook Then Is Now podcast group. Then Is Now Podcast is a proud member of the Dorkening Podcast Network, so be sure to check out the other great shows there at thedorkening.com. You can also visit our website at havenpodcasts.com, where you'll find our sister show, The East Meets the West, in which we discuss Shaw Brothers films and spaghetti western movies. And Then Is Now is on YouTube, so visit youtube.com/user/UncleDeath1 to get the latest videos as well as other fun videos. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and also share the video versions of our podcast with your friends and get them to subscribe as well. Don't forget to go wherever you download your podcast from, and please leave us a great review if you enjoyed this episode so that more listeners can find us. You can find us on all the podcasting apps, especially the big three, iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. Class dismissed.
The This Now podcast is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during this podcast are the property of their copyright holders. All original content is copyright Jupiter Media.
For more shows like the one you just heard, check out the Dorkening Podcast Network at thedorkening.com.